So welcome to our colleagues. It's always fun to get together. We don't, I made my way down to it and to take a look at it. We're so glad that you're here and that you could join us and come up with your provo.
Thank you for your welcome. John Mackey, the director of the visual work.
Great, let's just do the roll call. John, you're right on it. Let's go and then we'll come back down and we'll end with Hillary. Hi, I see you. Oh, no, we'll keep going this way and we'll come back to you. Is that okay? Perfect.
Good morning, Ben Snyderman with the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands.
Cameron Dalton, Governor's Office for Economic Opportunity.
Chris Hahn, Secretary of Space City.
Mayor Michelle Confusi, Provo City.
Mayor Carolyn Lumbert, Linden City.
Julie Fulmer, Mayor Vineyard.
Not a mayor, Curtis Blair, Director of Chamber of Commerce.
Says that with so much noise.
Tyler Belcher, the Utah County.
Then do we want, let's come back.
Lene Millett, Oral City Council.
Hillary Hungerford, Utah Valley University.
Great, and then let's go online. Can someone call off who's online, just so we get a complete roll call?
Yes, we have Sam Haynes, Chloe Hall, William Brown.
Just the board.
Oh, okay. Mayor Johnson. Mark Johnson is on the call.
And then Neil Brown.
William Brown, yes. Well, yes.
It looks like we have enough to report for sure. So thank you, everyone. We'll go ahead and move on to our second agenda item, which is guest presentations. Our first one is public engagement and mark their research summary, and Zoe is going to take that one.
Great. Cool. Hi everyone. I'm Zoe Forster. I was here about a year ago, where I presented some results from our research. So I've been helping Sam and Luke for the past year with a variety of market research initiatives, and this is our final report. So I'm excited to show some of the impact we have. We've done this past year, and I was actually just telling my husband yesterday that I'm so impressed with Sam and Luke. I do a lot of market research, and a lot of times I deliver the results, and I never see anything with it. And I'm just so impressed with how much Sam and Luke have done with all of the insights this past year. So I'll get started. So I'll go over just a refresher of the project, and I'll get into some of the impact and some of the initiatives that Lake already has moved forward with, and then just what this means for ULA moving forward. So the project overview, slide, thanks. So for the objective, this market research project started from the ground up with a very broad goal, which was really just to understand public perception of Utah Lake. So we began with a really limited understanding of this. There was really no infrastructure in place to measure public perception, and so as the project evolved, we became really much more focused on the things that we thought would really be prioritized and move forward. And so we started with this large-scale perception survey. And for those of you who remember the last presentation I did, I walked through a little bit of that. But the main understanding of that survey was to really just gather perceptions surrounding Utah Lake from a wide variety of folks. And I'll get into a little bit more detail around that, but you can kind of see as we move from left to right in this slide, it becomes much more focused in the methodology, with moving from perception survey to perception interviews, understanding why users choose or do not choose the lake and underlying beliefs regarding the lake, focus groups trying to generate ideas and opportunities for the future. We also paired some of our market research with economic impact study to understand how perception really leads to behavior. And then finally, ending with some recreation interviews and nurse surveys. A lot of what we found in the upfront perception interviews and surveys was some opportunities around infrastructure with facilities and amenities. And so we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. So we can go to the next slide here. So here's some amazing numbers around what we did. We engaged with 405 participants of 9 companies through a large-scale perception survey, which allowed really diverse insights. We conducted around 30 in-person interviews for a variety of leads. We just wrapped up our intercept survey. We engaged with 365 participants through intercept surveys at all 35 access points. And we collected over 100 pieces of feedback, which informed around 50 plus opportunities to enhance perception of the lake. And so I'll walk through some of the most immediate opportunities that that the Utah Lake Authority invested in. Go to the next slide here, and I'll talk through a little bit about the economic impact study we did. And so we did this because we really wanted to understand how we can link perception to behavior. And so strong tourism spending confirms that Utah Lake is a really valuable regional asset. And so ongoing public input is really key to guiding some of those investments to move forward to understand how we can prioritize future opportunities to ensure we sustain this kind of growth. So we had in 2024, we had 1.2 million visitor days by people outside Utah County. And from that, 74.3 million on trip expenses, which leads to all of these amazing numbers below. 820 in total jobs, 32.4 million in total labor income, 56.8 million total GDP, and 9.2 million state and local taxes. So this is just a highlight of some of the numbers there, which is really amazing to see this come to life. And for those that are interested in seeing more, Sam and Luke have the full economic impact study. We can go to the next slide. And I'll walk through some of the most immediate initiatives. The first is the Utah Lake is My Lake campaign. Some of you guys might have seen this on social media, but there's just been an amazing PR effort that has been going on for the past few months. We really want to dive deep into water quality and algae blooms and just some of the concerns that residents have. We found that 50% of residents were concerned about water quality, followed by 44% around water quality, specifically algae blooms. And just overall, there's a lack of understanding of the characteristics of shallow water lakes, which is very important understanding Utah Lake because there's a lot of things that inherently come with the lake that we can't necessarily change. We can definitely improve them. And so the campaign launch was obviously supported by extensive PR. You can see all of these headlines here on the slide. You can see the video. And as I was actually going through some of the Intercept survey data last week, I saw a quote that someone actually came to the lake because they saw the commercial, which is exactly the kind of behavior that we want as a result of this kind of PR. They're thinking about the lake. They're seeing some of the funny commercials. Oh, let's head over there. So this is an amazing input effort by the lake, and upcoming videos will dive deeper into a variety of the topics that came through some of the market research insights. The next is the Great Carp Hunt. This is a recent, initiative that Utah Lake has undertaken. There's a lot of worries about invasive fish species in the lake compared to other recreational outlets in Utah, and so I think outside of the fishing community, we found that many residents just weren't aware of the carp removal efforts, and they just had this negative stigma around some of the fishing and recreational opportunities in the lake. And so in early interviews, users suggested a cash prize to incentivize continued effort for this carp hunt. And so Utah Lake has released a video, among many other videos, to educate the public on restoration efforts. And the monthly carp hunts with cash prizes will continue. But this is just one of the amazing initiatives that have been going on. If you're following them on social media, there's just some amazing videos that Sam and Luke have been posting that have really just caught my eye. So this is just one of the ones that I wanted to highlight that have been most recent. The next one is the Recreation Access Plan, which is an ongoing effort to ensure that we are updating our facility and amenities. And so through various user interviews and Intercept surveys, we're able to identify what is at various access points. And so 25% of recreational interviews, participants reported concern about litter and availability of garbage bins. And then among trail users, 78% reported concerns related to trail maintenance with things like overgrowth of vegetation and also debris. And then among beachgoers, 86% reported concerns with beach conditions. And so Bike Utah, who's responsible for creating this recreation access plan, I worked with them closely to ensure that a lot of the public input and some of these insights that you see above are addressed through the framework. Where there's an image here, you can kind of see some of them. So, Utah Lake is working to ensure that a lot of these recommendations through this framework are being implemented based off of, what people are actually responding. So very exciting stuff and very amazing to see that people's input is actually being implemented. So looking forward, what does this mean? There have been a few guiding principles that have really kind of, been top of mind for me as I've done a lot of this research. And I think the first is that there's a lot of trust when people see that their words align with results. And so visible benefits are what truly shift perception. And actually in the public perception survey, we had a negative NPS score, and in the intercept surveys, we had a positive NPS score. So there was a significant shift in how people are feeling about the lake. This could be for a variety of reasons, but one of them could be is that they're seeing that Utah Lake is actually, they're actually doing what people are asking. So that's amazing to see. The next, very similar to this. Oh, sorry. Is that community first. So like when people help shape solutions, they're more likely to support and sustain them. And lastly, change is supported by data leads to more meaningful outcomes. So we had a lot of hypotheses around what people wanted, but actually listening to what people wanted is key here. And then lastly, we can shift to the next slide. Is keeping a pulse on public feedback. We've working with Sam, we've really set a really great foundation for how we can continue to monitor public feedback through, some of these methods you've seen up here. We have a great perception survey foundation that we can use, similar to same with user interviews and intercept surveys. These are all just a variety of methods that could be a great method for us to continue to engage the public. So yeah, that's what's been going on this past year. It's been amazing to work with Sam and Luke and really see some of this come to life. So it's been a wonderful project. Thank you.
Does anyone have questions for Zoe?
I would love to ask.
Zoe, so in your study and turning around the perception of the lake, it seems to me as I talk with people, if they've never been to the lake or they don't go to the lake, it's a little bit harder to turn around those perceptions. Are you finding that it looks like people that are there, we can get them to actually go visit and do an activity there, that's more powerful than someone just saying, oh, the lake's fine, or it's better, or a commercial?
Yes, absolutely. I think that the things that we found in the large scale perception survey is that, as many of you know, the surrounding city, there's a lot of intergenerational families, and there's a lot of negative perceptions that impact multiple generations. And so for younger generations, that's still in their head, that negative stigma. But for newer families who have, who are new to Utah, they're much more likely to engage with the lake because they don't have that kind of perception in their past. So I think it's important that to Sam and Luke, that we continue to push the PR efforts and the awareness around the importance of the recreational opportunities, but also understanding, the conservation efforts, right? I think we found that most people said that they were most concerned with conserving the Great Salt Lake, but I think that, the Utah Lake is a major distributor to the Great Salt Lake. And so if we can kind of shift people's perception that this is a major conservation for the state and for the city, then I think we can, get people to actually access the lake and understand that it's important for the local community.
Any other questions? Nice. Thank you for your work, Zoe. I really appreciate it. Let's move on now to our next item, which is another presentation by Hannah. I think Hannah is going to step up into this. Hannah?
Yeah, and if I can take a second real quick, Sam, this is just for the benefit of people listening online. I apologize, Sherry didn't mention at the beginning. We just had a technological glitch this morning, so there's not a camera view for those who are listening online, but there is audio and they will see the screen. So for everybody who's listening online, we apologize for the inconvenience, but hopefully audio's coming through clear from what I understand. I just want to make sure everybody was ordered.
That's so unfortunate because we all look fabulous.
This is sort of the best year I've ever seen. Wonderful. Thank you so much for here today. My name is Hannah Water. I'm with the Division of Water Quality, environmental scientist, and one of my main responsibilities is helping coordinate harmful algal bloom monitoring around the state. And so just want to take 10 or so minutes to chat with you about harmful algal blooms on Utah Lake
And really thinking spend the first half as a general harmful algal bloom refresher. I know this audience is all first, but kind of putting all the pieces in place. And then a quick review about what we've seen in terms of harmful algal blooms this year. And I'll be like doing a little dance if others you should do this slide. So just to make sure we're all on the same page with vocabulary, harmful algal blooms are confusing. We call them HABs, harmful algae, blue-green algae, and really the most scientifically accurate name is cyanobacteria. Harmful algae is actually cyanobacteria, which is a photosynthesizing bacteria that has been on the earth for billions of years. Next slide, please. And so, cyanobacteria is actually extremely widespread. It naturally occurs in every water body on the earth. And at no levels, it's not an issue. So this photo I'm showing you is Arctic and when we sampled this water, we were seeing cyanobacteria in concentrations of hundreds of cells per milliliter. This is really ambient conditions, not a problem. The problem is when we go from this hundreds of cells per milliliter to hundreds of thousands or millions of cells per milliliter. And at Utah Lake, there's three main factors that usually drive the evolution of a fluid. Next. The first one is because this is a photosynthesizing, like a plant bacteria, it really loves nice, hot, sunny days. And so when we have a summer, like we're having this summer, most Utah summers are like, that creates all that sunshine the cyanobacteria needs to create energy and reproduce. As well, because it's a bacteria, they multiply faster in warmer temperatures. Utah Lake is a shallow lake, it's a warm lake, so it's a really good incubator. Next. The other thing is like plants in your garden or on your lawn, you need fertilizer and nutrients for plants to grow. And that's also true about cyanobacteria. Nutrient pollution, so nitrogen, phosphorus, is required for cells to multiply. And when there's lots of nutrient pollution, there's lots of cyanobacteria growth. I know this is familiar with lots of different sources and nutrient pollution in Utah Lake, but this is things like wastewater effluent, stormwater runoff is a big one, any adjacent land use, agriculture runoff, etc. ends up in the lake. Next slide. And then finally, cyanobacteria is really good at moving in when there's disturbance. So carp, uprooting aquatic plants, invasive plants along the shoreline, disturbed vegetation, that also creates a void where cyanobacteria is able to move in. And so when you have all of these things going on, next slide, you go from hundreds of cells per milliliter. When we went back to this site and sampled, we were seeing millions of cells per milliliter. And now we have formed a harmful algal bloom where cyanobacteria has basically taken over this entire ecosystem. It's crowded out the beneficial species and is highly concentrated in the water. Next slide. As you know, this is problematic for a variety of reasons. First of all, this is not great news for the ecosystem. We're replacing species we want there with this harmful algae. As well, most species of cyanobacteria produce toxins as part of their natural life cycle, which would be quite harmful to humans and animals. And then third, Zoe did such a good job sharing, this can have economic impacts by affecting people's perceptions of Utah Lake and making certain recreational activities not appropriate. Next slide. I do want to talk, I know we hear a lot of hype in both directions when it comes to health effects from harmful algal blooms. So just wanted to review this. Really, two main ways that blooms can make people sick. These are bacteria, so just exposure to really high concentrations of cyanobacteria can cause symptoms like rashes, skin irritation, or gastrointestinal illness, so vomiting, diarrhea. And then more concerning, the toxins produced by some species of cyanobacteria can have more significant health effects. There's a variety of toxins produced, liver toxins, nerve toxins, dermal toxins. Next slide. And one of the ways that we work with partners to keep track of human health impacts is we coordinate with Utah Poison Control Center. They have a 24-hour hotline where folks who are concerned can call and get professional medical advice. And this also allows us to keep tabs on what's happening at water bodies around the state. So just for your reference, I pulled 2 recent calls from Utah Lake that really illustrate these common symptoms. So the first one you can see is a 20-year-old woman who was boating and tubing on the lake last week, and very generic, very common symptoms that abdominal cramping, vomiting. The vast majority of cases we see related to harmful algal blooms are these kind of symptoms, the gastrointestinal illness. And then another case, 2 3-year-olds swimming in American Wharf Marina. One of the children also developed those gastrointestinal symptoms, so hard belly, blood in her stool. And the other child acting lethargic, disoriented, and that skin irritation. And that we have been seeing a little bit of nerve toxin in some of the more recent blooms, which might be related to some of those symptoms by the other child. Next slide, please. And so, I think with harmful algal blooms, the other thing that I think is so important for the public to understand is how exposure occurs. And really, the bottom line is you should not eat any harmful algae, which seems pretty intuitive. And most adults are not going to eat some weird-looking green patch on the water. Most of this exposure is incidental. So swimming is the big one. Even if you're trying to keep your mouth closed, you're going to swallow a little bit of water if you're swimming and splashing for a couple of hours. Water, jet skiing, and tubing can also lead to incidental ingestion because of that spray. You get those aerosolized droplets that get in your eyes. So when there is a harmful algal bloom present, that's the main messaging we share with people is avoid activities that lead to you eating algae. So probably not a great time to swim. You don't want to be water skiing over a big patch of surface scum. And then as well, children and dogs tend to get the short end of the stick. Dogs have no discretion whatsoever and will actively seek out and drink nasty water. And unfortunately, we do see a number of dog deaths around Utah every year from harmful algae because of that reason. And then kids as well, way less discerning, are going to drink more water, are going to be putting gross stuff in their mouth. So that's our other recommendation is, if an active bloom is in an area, that's not where you want your kids or your dog splashing around. That doesn't mean you can't recreate and enjoy Utah Lake, but it's picking recreational activities that reduce that risk. So boating is pretty much good year-round, fishing, nature walking, picnicking, and just using caution that again, you're not looking at your head. Next slide. So as many of you probably have heard and have been instrumental in helping communicate, right now there is a warning advisory for harmful algae on Utah Lake. And again, this is a PSA for the public as they're recreating to avoid those activities that lead to high likelihood of a negative exposure. Next slide. And so maybe just talking about how we ended up there. This is just a brief timeline of how harmful algal blooms have evolved on Utah Lake this year. And I just want to preface it, as we know, this is not unusual for Utah Lake. This is not unusual for lakes in general. Every year, about 30 lakes around Utah have a harmful algal bloom. This is generally a phenomenon that might last from weeks to months, typically in late summer, early fall months. So timeline this year has been relatively similar to what we've seen in years past. We start monitoring at the end of May. Things were looking good, May 28th. And then we started to see harmful algal bloom development in mid-June down at Lincoln Marina. This also is really typical for Utah Lake. Usually blooms start to develop in that southern part of the lake and then slowly migrate northward. True to form, June 23rd, we're seeing bloom material in Provo Bay. And then it wasn't until mid-July that we started to see more of an open water bloom in that southern part of the lake. And then things this year really have popped off by July 23rd. We then were seeing that algae material in our eastern marinas, so in American Fork, and then some evidence of spread down the Jordan River. And then at the end of July, we were seeing evidence of a lake-wide harmful algal bloom and quite a bit of material rafting down the Jordan River. Next slide. A really nice way to visualize this is we actually use satellite imagery that has special detection capabilities for a pigment made by cyanobacteria to also keep an eye on this from a more aerial scale. So you can see anything with color is detected cyanobacteria. Red, it's gets accumulations. So not bad, concentrated in the south in mid-June. And then you see that spreading through the middle of July. Next slide. And then we can really see things intensifying these last couple of weeks where we now are seeing high concentrations throughout the lake. And it's impossible to predict the exact timing. Typically, once the bloom is this intense, it ebbs and flows a little bit, but generally persist in some form until temperatures drop. So if we have a nice cold October, it could be then. And usually by late October, we've seen significant drop off and are moving towards no bloom or significant decreases in bloom. Next slide. And then just for context, every year is a little bit different. Last year was a really positive year for blooms. We've had some blooms forming, but things kind of died off. This year we definitely have intensified, and this is the most we've seen going down the Jordan River for several years. So just for your reference, I pulled that satellite image from last August to this August, just to give some context. So interesting to see how this bloom develops and if it does persist and keeps going down the Jordan River the next few months. Next slide. And then just if you'd like to track this, you're always welcome to reach out to me and I'm happy to share this information. Or we have our public facing website, habs.utah.gov. We're sampling Utah Lake generally about once a week, and all of the results of that sampling are shared on this website. We also have information about how you can help prevent blooms, how to identify a harmful algal bloom. So we'd love for you to check that out and share that with your cities. I'm also happy to answer any questions.
I know nothing about this. So is the bloom present in the entire water column?
Yeah, so cyanobacteria, it's tricky. It's photosynthesizing, but the species we're seeing right now actually has the ability to regulate its buoyancy. And so oftentimes during the day, it will rise up to the top, and that's where we see the highest concentrations in that scum. At nighttime, it will sink down to the bottom where that nutrient load is available to be able to gobble those up. So, generally, thickest accumulations are on the surface, and especially in areas along the shore or coves where all that scum gets pushed by the wind. But we are seeing cyanobacteria throughout the entire water column.
Okay, so my question came from, would there be any benefit if it's in the top layer of any type of a damming process to contain it? Or is it because it floats up and down, would that not be possible?
Yeah, we've done it at Utah Lake State Park. They have these bubble curtains. So basically it was a tank that was blowing out a lot of bubbles with that idea. And they somewhat effective. I think the problem is when conditions are right for cyanobacteria growth, even if you sequester a section of it, in this marina or this cove, conditions are still right for cyanobacteria to be multiplying and forming in other areas of the lake. And so maybe we can help it from going down the Jordan River that way, but the potential is for it to grow and multiply.
And then how many sample sites do you usually do when you do your weekly samples?
Well, so if you go to this house, you can see we go to all the major marinas. So Saratoga Springs is our western marina, and then all the ones for your lovely cities along the eastern, and then some in the southern site. So I'd say 8 to 10, depending on the week. And we also will do open water sampling alternative weeks to get a sense of more lake-wide conditions.
Okay. And my last question, we get a lot of bad PR in Utah Lake because of these. They're very present in other lakes in Utah. I don't want to build us up by bringing others down, but how can we never hear about these in other bodies of water? We not hear about it, right? I mean, it's always Utah Lake is the trash pile, but these are very evident in other bodies of water. But I never get a warning saying don't go to Willard Bay.
No, I do think, unfortunately, Utah Lake in some ways has become the poster child for harmful algal blooms, which is not fair. I was like, Pineview has been getting some bad press about harmful algal blooms recently, so they're like trying to join you. But no, I think that really really, it's something I hope, and I feel like the public is moving towards, is educating the public that this is something that happens. This is a process that happens at water bodies around the state. It doesn't mean the end of the world. It doesn't mean that Utah Lake is broken or ruined in some way. It, you know, in the same way, you know how to recognize a rattlesnake or poison ivy. It doesn't mean you never go outside or you don't recreate, but it means that you can be informed and modify recreation. And I, you know, that's a nuanced message, and I think the public likes just like going to extremes. But certainly appreciate the work of this group in helping educate the public so that it can be informed and use caution, but also it doesn't inhibit recreation.
Looking satellite imagery, do we have access to this?
Yeah, this is actually a product produced by the EPA. Anyone can make an account. They have an image every day, and it's a great way to track things. I'll give you my print for that. You can see the details.
Just a fun story, Hannah. I was up in Wyoming a couple weekends ago, and so we're saying, you know, Utah Lake is the one that gets all the attention. And after I got done speaking, this rancher that has 500 head of cattle and ranches out there on just the plains of Evanston, Wyoming, said, "Listen, Mayor, I just want to say thank you because we're having, for the first time ever, algae bloom breakouts in our ponds, in our irrigation for our cattle. And we're pulling all the science and work that you guys have done on Utah to help us." And he said, you know, it's a generational ranch and they've never dealt with it before, but they're dealing with it now. And you know, they had 7 baby calves die from it. That's how they all of a sudden were alerted to it. And but he just said, keep doing all your research because we are keeping our eye on everything you're doing, and it's really helping us ranchers up here in Wyoming. So it's even up in Wyoming.
I really like that spin on it though, because I think Utah Lake, especially in 2016, is when everything went crazy, and it did force Utah into dealing with harmful algal blooms, thinking about how do we monitor, how do we communicate, how do we educate the public, and in some ways, it's thanks to Utah Lake that we are a domestic, and I'd say in some ways an international leader with our harmful algal bloom monitoring. I've been invited multiple times to present to other states on, you know, United States scale. I was invited to present at an international conference a year and a half ago. So Utah is a leader in harmful algal blooms, and I guess that's like a nice silver lining. That's thanks to
We're looking for the silver linings.
Fabricating the way.
Yeah, that's right.
I really like this information here. I think a lot of people think, oh, that's Lake over there. Is there a way we could get this graphic and like put it on socials just as an education about how can I, as a resident, stop harmful algal blooms? I don't think it registers in people's minds that a fertilizer on my lawn contributes to the watershed at the lake, or, you know, at race and all these different things. So
I think that's a great point, and that gives people ownership while educating them. Exactly. Stormwater runoff is an issue that can only be addressed on a household scale. We do have a social media toolkit that has a lot of these messages already prefabricated with nice images that I would love to share with this group, and would love for your cities to send it along. Thank you.
Just another quick question. First off, great job on the presentation. I think that's really informational. I'm just curious, do you have a theory on why we saw more urban outcomes this year in August than last year? Is it due to lake level, or if you guys have any correlations on that?
I mean, I can speculate. I have no robust scientific theory. I mean, just we had some really remarkable water years, which resulted in deeper water and also colder water, both are which reduce the likelihood of the fast cyanobacteria multiplying. So it might have to do with the fact that we had a more typical winter this past year. And just we had a really hot summer. I didn't put it in my slides, but I was looking at weather temperature predictions the last couple of months and these coming months, and we are above average. So I think that probably is part of it as well.
Sorry, just one other follow-up. Have you all looked at currents and whether moving water, I mean, obviously it showed up at the short river, but does it help we encourage currents and reduce wave action and other things that we're looking at with Utah Lake, or is that?
I think that's a great question. You know, we haven't done a totally holistic study in that way. Certainly we see wind action and currents can affect where the cyanobacteria is accumulating. Sorry, eastern marinas, oftentimes I think they almost act like catcher's mitts where currents are really way to just like wraps all the cyanobacteria into that. I think our American pork is experiencing that right now. Certainly increasing circulation can help, but it's just shallow legacy tunneling. It's pretty challenging. So a lot of the benefits from mixing are not realized because it already is such a well-based lake because of the shallowness.
Thank you. One other question, just, it's helpful to see the big picture, and certainly the components that go into, say, increasing, but making the right conditions. Is there any proportionality? Sometimes as the public, you say, is my one lawn, less fertilizer going to stop HABs? And so how do we frame collectively, this is how impactful this factor is? So in other words, if we're looking here, pick up pet waste. How much is pet waste actually causing HABs in the lake? I get it, it's a contributing factor, but what is the biggest contributing factor?
John, do you want to comment on this one? We have a really cool water body study with.
Yeah, that's sort of the question. There's a couple of really important studies going on right now. The Utah Lake Water Quality Study that's going on. Forestry for State Lands has a complementary study that's going on that's looking at, Anna mentioned sort of the three big things: temperature, invasive species, and the ecosystem, if you will, nutrients, and trying to pick those apart. But I guess I will try to just contain myself a little because we've been talking about this for an awful long time. One of the things that the study is working on is what's called a watershed model, and it's based around land use. And so the idea is that we can put in current and scenario land uses, so agriculture, residential, commercial areas, and apply factors that might take into account. I don't know how granular it gets, Cameron, if it gets down to pet waste or not. But we can actually look at these different scenarios of, from a watershed standpoint, and evaluate the relative importance of these different types of loadings of nutrients, for example.
Thank you, John. My comment to that simply would be, I appreciate the breadth. What I also think is Mayor, some of the efforts of this body and this committee should be highlighted. Can we do everything to fix the lake tomorrow? It's just not a reality. But some of the efforts here have been lake bed restoration, so getting the general contaminants. These are the big picture things that I think should be noted. I love that we have that storytelling ability now that we can say, as we lead into that. Early on, it was determined that the mission of this body was not lake restoration, it was lake improvement. So we focus on how do we improve from where we're at today. I think those efforts are there. So, John, I think the study is great to tell us what is going to give us the biggest bang for the buck in our improvement efforts. And I'm not picking on that, so just use that as an example. It's small, and every little bit helps, so I get it, and I appreciate that. So thank you for the study, thank you for the information. I think it's helpful and us integrate that as our campaign efforts.
To your comment, I think that's part of the question too. It's we can figure out what's the biggest bang for our buck, but it's some what is within. So we're not going to be able to change the temperature. That would be really extremely impactful if we could just drop the temperature by 20 degrees. But not going to happen. So I really like that too, and I like that you're highlighting the cities. I know a lot of effort has been done, and it's like, can we pull out of the cart? Maybe that's like a very tangible thing we can all agree on. Or our wastewater treatment facilities is something with a regulatory ability, and so it's a little bit easier to be like, okay, let's target this and telling everyone you better pick up your poop. So.
Something fun I chatted with Hannah is August 6th, there was a press release. It looks like Luke was quoted in there. There's a Professor Shurtleff at UVU that has patented a technology. He has a barge going out on the lake, fixing the algal bloom, and the goal is to create fluid barges. He's got this cool technology. So I'm sure Luke could share with us as well. You know, there might be some efforts to just have these little scrubber barges going around. Taking care of, which is really exciting. So that was a press release that we just barely had on this topic.
Well, and that's a good, for my question, to put you on the spot, if you had unlimited money, unlimited budget, what do you find yourself thinking, if we solve this, it would make the biggest significance?
Oh, and I would like to do like a thorough lit review before answering that question. Like I mentioned, I do harmful algal bloom monitoring around the state, so I probably know more about Utah Lake harmful algal blooms than the average person, and I don't feel qualified to like make a decisive answer. I will say, just echoing John, and disturbance from carp has really, I think, inhibited a lot of the return of the Utah Lake ecosystem to health. What we've found from studies looking at what Utah looked like before European pioneer settlement is there was a lot of aquatic plants in the lake, which could actually outcompete the cyanobacteria for those nutrients. And carp are out there rooting around, killing those aquatic plants. And so in some ways, that's preventing us from reestablishing a community that would help improve the lake. So I feel like carp is just like a nice, universally acceptable, not politically contentious thing we know would help the lake. So I think keep up with those carp efforts. And then really it's nutrient pollution. And I think there's a lot of different directions we can tackle that. I like that we're having this discussion about engaging the public and just helping people take responsibility and ownership over improvements. I think if we were better at communicating what causes harmful algal blooms, then not only is the public willing to maybe change their own behaviors and be more careful about fertilizer or clean the leaves out of their gutter, but then maybe they're also more willing to financially support community-wide efforts because they recognize, oh, here's how these are connected, and I feel empowered to help love it, improve the lake.
And then one more, in your experience, can you think on the top of your head of a lake that has solved this problem? Like in your experience, have you heard, oh, they've had it for 10 years and then they've cleaned it up? Any experience in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways, as an international and a domestic community, we're kind of coming to our reckoning with harmful algal blooms right now, where they're getting worse, nutrient pollution is building up. I know the Great Lakes have dealt a lot with this on a really large scale and have had both triumphs and defeats. So it's really good progress there. I think especially because they have so much agriculture with more non-point source or community engagement.
I have a question, and I had a gentleman meet with me a number of years ago, and I wish I could remember his name. But he mentioned that in his studies, he found much evidence that there are millions and billions of mollusks and snails around the lake. There's evidence of that. And they are natural algae eaters and filters of that. And my family, my great-grandfather, Joseph Greenwood Hunter, his father was an original homesteader pioneer along the lake in American Fork. And there's a picture of him in 1911 as a boy, above his knees. And this granular, more than 100-year-old photo, you can see his feet. It's clear. It's a crystal clear lake. So has there been any research on the mollusks being reintroduced to the lake that seem to be extinct right now is what I've heard?
I know, John, you can comment on this. I know there's been some studies. Have you been looped in on those? I have not read the most recent results.
Yes, thanks. Yes, there has been some work in precisely along the lines of looking into, so the paleo record and verifying that the mollusks were there. And then, habitat change, was, I guess, drastic enough so that they can't survive there anymore. There's a number of examples. I don't know that I can cite the most positive examples, but where mollusks have returned, they are fantastic filter feeders. And I know that Rich Mickelson up at Timpanogos had done some demonstrations because they were interested in this as a solution where if you put mollusks in dirty water, they will filter it out. I don't know that they were able to take the next steps. I know that there were some concerns about introducing species and how that would be managed and controlled. So I think that there is still that interest in getting those native species reestablished. And if you can get them to establish and get them, in the right numbers, they can clear up a lake. Mollusks can clear up a lake.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention as well that I think that back to the tarp issue and the reestablishment of the submerged aquatic vegetation, along with that comes the reestablishment of the native bivalves and other things. So when we restore the lake bottom, I think we'll start to see some of those other issues start to not self-resolve, but I think things will get better that way as well. So that is a really key method for, I think, restoring to the lake work. I should say.
Okay. That was such a great presentation.
Oh, what-
Mayor Johnson has a comment, it looks like.
Yeah, well, a question more than a comment. So I'm sorry, I'm having a really hard time hearing, but I do have a question. And I hope you can hear me clearly. When I was at PSSD and I served for 15 years, they were talking about phosphorus. We had a number of phosphorus presentations on that. And there was a number of samples that were made that went back way before the pioneers ever came. In fact, they said one of the samples went back to the Jurassic area. And they said there was phosphorus naturally turning that lake quite a bit of it, and there was no way they could understand how to deal with that. I was wondering if there's been any discussion on that at all.
Yeah, Mark, just to make sure I understood your question, you were just cutting out a little bit. You were saying, maybe a past presentation was saying that historically, even before settlement, there were high levels of phosphorus. Is that correct? And is that true, or how is that science evolved? Is that your question?
Yes, that's the question. And if that's true, if we have verified that, how do we deal with it?
Yeah, that is such a great question, and I'll give it first stab, and then John, if you'd like to add anything. There have been a number of studies in it. It's tricky to look back in time, but the study I'm referencing, they actually took sediment cores, so drilled down and looked at the historical sediment, trying to understand what sort of concentrations and ecosystem was possible or was present pre-settlements. This is more 1700s, early 1800s. And what that study discovered is that, ULA Lake always has been a very shallow alkaline lake. So it's never going to look like Bear Lake. It never has. That's not in the cards. But evidence based on the phytoplankton community available, so basically little critters in the water, and plant material, is that it was more mesotrophic. So nutrients were present, but not as highly enriched as they are today. Versus they saw that as you got into the late 1800s, there was a dramatic shift in phytoplankton community. So in the community with more cyanobacteria present and more pollution tolerant species of other phytoplankton present. And then there was another big shift in mid to early 1900s towards even more cyanobacteria and evidence of higher nutrient levels. So, I think the answer is that Utah Lake in our record has never been a low nutrient lake, but modernly it is higher nutrients than it was before settlement. John, how did I do? Anything you want to add to that?
No, I'm not sure I have anything more to add to that. I don't know that cores have gone that deep. I think that they've gone so deep as to be able to say pre-pioneer time. I think I heard Mark say Jurassic period. I don't think that we got that deep. The only other thing I will add is, of course, there are other sources of nutrients, natural. And I think this was one of his points, was that there are reports of, where else do nutrients come from other than just our impact, human impacts. The paleo record shows that it's changed a lot since pioneer time, or from pre-pioneer to post-pioneer, but certainly there are other impacts coming down from the mountains as well as coming from the sky.
All right, any further questions for Hannah? Okay, Luke's looking at me like this meeting's gonna be long there. Let's move it along. Thank you, Hannah. That was a great presentation. We'll go ahead and move on now to chair, board members, reports and disclosures and recusals. So who's gonna take this one? Are there
I think
any?
it's just a standing item in case any board member has something they'd like to bring up.
I would like to share something that we're coordinating with the city, with ULA staff and all of you, hopefully. Super excited. The Linden Heritage Trail, which has been in the works for many, many years and had many obstacles, is now complete. It will be the first lake to mountain multi-use paved trail through some beautiful creek sides, and they will connect all the way from Bonneville Shoreline, Murdoch Canal, all the way out to the lake. Future Nature Center. We plan to have a ribbon cutting that we'd like to invite ULA and Vineyard City at Vineyard. Thank you, Mayor. A Vineyard as well. Here, who Julie, they cooperated on a little piece there of finishing as well. Lake front. So we're excited about that.
And let us all know, and we'll all try and come out and support that. Those are exciting. Okay, we'll open it up now to public comment. So I'll just read the definition of public comment, and then we'll see if anyone would like to participate or online participate. So public comment is defined as a time set aside for citizens to express their views. Each speaker is limited to 2 minutes, so the need for proper public notice to immediate action cannot be taken in the Utah Lake Authority Board meeting. If action is necessary, the item will be listed on a future agenda. However, the board may elect to discuss it only if the item is an immediate matter of concern. If a person is unable to attend the meeting, public comments can be submitted no later than 2 days before the meeting. And we have an email there, and the comments will be shared with the board. So at this time, we'll open it up for public comment. And would you just state your name and place of residence, please?
Sure.
No, just put the microphone down to your mouth, just pull it down and you go. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Elliot Watt. I'm out of Salt Lake City. I'm a volunteer organizer. That's why I'm here. For a long time, I've been organizing activities as a volunteer. Mostly ice, bike rides, and recently kayak tours. You have a wonderful area down here, which I participate in relatively frequently, but I'm all over, not just in I ask you to take a look at the Spanish Fork River, make that navigable from the mouth of the canyon to Sandy Beach. And we have a couple of weirs in the way that prevent us from going all the way down. So the ordinance around those weirs would make it much more enjoyable. So on your list of to-do things, consider improving navigability on the Spanish Fork River. And then going farther north to the Jordan River, we really need to take out farther north, as close to the Narrows as possible. There's a trailhead at Thanksgiving Point that has everything except a boat ramp into the water. That would be a wonderful addition if you could swing that. But better yet, going farther north toward Camp Williams to take out farther north would be much appreciated. So that you could extend the time on the water there. Right now, we're doing an inlet out back from someplace farther south. The Inlet Park, for example, or Willow Park, and then go back to that mission. Those are my requests for you to do to improve recreational opportunities down here. I love what you're doing. I'm riding trails. over River Delta. We've been on it multiple times. That's great. Just thrilled that what you're doing to promote outdoor recreation in your area. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Elliot, and thank you for bringing it to our attention. That is helpful.
And Mayor, may I comment?
Yes, please.
Good news, you know where Primary Children's Hospital is in Lehigh. We will have a ramp for you there in the next 18 months, right off the river there. So you'll be able to go from Willow Park to a new city park that's right behind Primary Children's.
Fantastic. Thank you for that information.
Commissioner Beltran. All right. Welcome, and please state your name and residence.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jim Anderson in Salt Lake City. And I just want to throw an idea out there to the board. I've spoken with a couple of folks here already. And this idea kind of would help with the algae plume issue, as well as water conservation ideas. It's not that complex. Throw a big solar array, Utah Lake. It'll cover up the water, lower your water temperature, and then you'll have about 4.5 acre feet of water savings per year, per every acre that you cover. Now that is in addition to, of course, the solar energy that you generate. But if you throw something big out there, I think, on the Mosada side or on the Provo Bay side, you could probably get some economic benefit out of that because a lot of data centers only have some clean energy. Just an idea I'd like to present and love to discuss more with it.
Thank you, Jim. All right, is there any other public comment? Any public comment online? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. And I am going to excuse myself at this time. I have to step into a legal meeting, and I'll turn the time over to Vice Chair Lundberg. And she'll probably get it moving faster.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right,
Is that any further public comment? All right, seeing that, we'll move now to item number 5 on the agenda. This is our consent items. Staff, go ahead and present any information on those.
So the meeting minutes and April and May financial reports are provided in the agenda packet to the board. We don't have the June statement quite ready yet. We're still finishing out the fiscal year, so that'll be at the upcoming board meeting in September.
All right.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent items as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Fulmer, second by Commissioner Beltran.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. All right, item number 6, this is our staff and committee reports. We have several here listed, and I'd like to welcome our director, Luke Peterson, to kick us off.
Hey, thank you. We've had an exciting couple of months since our last board meeting, and I urge everybody to go through them as quickly as they can so that we can stay on target here. But yeah, I want to start out with talking about federal issues. Now, I want to say, first off, all this is, of course, contingent on Congress actually passing a budget. So say a prayer, light a candle, send out good vibrations, whatever works for you. But we've had some really great news from our congressional delegation with regard to the request that we've made. Senator Curtis has put in $1.2 million for invasive species. So the ARP challenge that we were just talking about, this would help with that directly. Really excited about that. He also put $4 million in for the Nature Center. That goes to UVU, so that wasn't our request, that's UVU's request, but obviously one that we would benefit from. Congressman Owens put in $2.5 million for recreation enhancements. Again, that would help with recreation points and upgrades all around the lake. So we're really excited about that. Most of the lake is inside of Congressman Owens' district, so that's terrific. Next slide.
And would that funding be available through grants to ULA?
It won't be through grants, but we have sort of identified the projects that will work there in certain strengths. And Congressman Kennedy put in another $2.5 million towards the Nature Center. And this goes to us, so this money goes to us, so, UVU has some money, we have some money, and, this is terrific. It's been a really spectacular year for us. Again, as long as Congress actually passes the budget. Next slide. I wanted to just highlight what this means relative to the $1.5 million state appropriation we get. In this context, basically it means that we've brought in $5 for every one that the state has given us. Really good ROI in case anybody's asking. Okay, we're excited about that. My hope has been that we would hit about 3 to 1. And so again, if Congress actually passes the budget, we'll have a very good year. I don't know that we're going to achieve this every year, but happy to see it happen.
That would put us over 50% funded on the nature center, yes.
Depending on what the final sum turns out to be. So we're looking at some options. The sum, the current budget for it is about 22 million. But really, I can't do a few things differently that would write down that cost quite a bit. So potentially, yes. On the Utah Lake is My Lake campaign, real quickly, the campaign has been a huge success. Next slide. One of the things that we use to measure this is click-through rate on online ads. So if you're acquainted with this, if you get to about 1.5% of people clicking through on your ads, that's good. If you get to 2%, that's great. Next slide. For our ads, we've seen 5 to 8%. So our ad buyer literally has said this is the highest he's ever seen in his career. This means that people are really engaging with our ads. I was at Freedom Days this year at our booth. I was at it last year. I had the same time slot, okay, each time on the 4th. And in the first 45 minutes of my shift this year, I spoke to more people than I did in my 8-hour shift last year. People beeline over to talk to us about these ads. It's completely changed the tenor of the conversations we have with people. I couldn't be more pleased without. So next. And then economic impact. So we talked about this. I won't talk about a lot more on it. Just to say, these are great numbers. I hope that you will sort of memorize that 74.3 million. Bring it up in conversations as often as you can. I think it's really vital that people understand that Utah Lake does contribute significantly to our economy. 800 jobs. That's roughly the adult population of Genola. So there we go. We populate one of the towns that are, it's like one of the towns on our board. Next, I think that's it for me. Yes. Any questions?
Thank you so much for your good work on those federal appropriations. Hopefully we will cross our fingers.
Yes.
Mr. Lumber, if I may just one
Yes.
quick question. So, Sam, what is the current plan with continuation or expansion or not of the ad campaign? So it's like we've had a good push. What is the next step?
Yeah. So Luke, first of all, and then to it's okay. And then just for the record. And then it's camera, don't worry. The ad campaign, so we are actually, what we've decided to do is the initial campaign is really designed to soften people up, right? Begin conversation, get people to question and basic assumptions about the lake. Now we have started to do these ads that are a little bit longer. They're more documentary-like. They're much more informative. And so we have the one about the current hunt. We have one that will come out next week that is about harmful algal blooms, right? We kind of rush that one so that we can get that information out there. But the goal is to really roll those out through over the next 12 months. And then we'll evaluate, we may want to do another Schumer's ad campaign next year or something like that if we feel the need. But it's kind of milk in the meat, right? We're getting to where we can give people
more substantive information at this point, which is terrific. Yeah, thank you. Okay, thanks, everybody.
All right, I'd like to welcome our most excellent Santa Brager to discuss operations and recreation.
Can't worry about it. I'll take it as a compliment that Luke and I are in such harmony in the work we do. Just can't keep us straight. Just two quick slides for me today, being on some planning projects that we're working on with some partners individually. You heard Zoe mention our recreation access plan because if you notice on her slide, we did 6 different methods of public input. Now, obviously, that guided a lot of other things, but we utilized all 6 of those, as well as a public comment period that's about to wrap up this week on this plan. So something I'm really proud of and appreciate Zoe's help, if I keep us help on that. The plan is close to finishing up. We had the final draft posted. As I just mentioned, public comments about to close, so we'll make some final edits. We've got some great feedback from some more partner organizations that are a part of the planning group that helped with this. That'll provide a 10-year plan for our recreation efforts at the lake. I'm happy to discuss that more with the board, and we'll share that plan once we have that ready. It identifies 10 high-level pain points that we're trying to address across the lake, like trash management, trail access, amenity improvements, et cetera, and then some very specific suggestions and plans for different access points. Hopefully in the next week or so, we'll be putting out to procurement our lake-wide signage plan. I mentioned this before. This is creating a grant guide and also the other resources needed, like a map and other documents to seek funding to go put in a very large amount of signage, meaning access point signs, wayfinding, interpretive signage, and others across the entire lake this next year. So we'll be kicking that off soon. Master plans. We're working with the state park on trying to pursue a master plan for their park. We're also working with the county and hope to work with a couple of state agencies, FFSL and TWR. We're seeking some funding right now through the Division of Outdoor Recreation Initiative program to fund both the trail feasibility study and 8 master plans so that we can start getting plans on file to then pursue improvements at the various access points. So they're guided with an overall vision instead of what everybody else would be, at least getting distracted by the new silver, or shiny thing that we should try, instead of having a good vision to guide those. The trail feasibility study is evaluating from Provo Bay down to West Mountain. The current existing alignment, if there needs to be adjustments based on where things are at today, because this alignment for the whole lake was developed, I believe it was 15 years ago. So working with Springville City, working with Spanish Fork City, the county, and many other partners to try and make recommendations for the county's transportation plan that will be happening this next year. And on projects, just a few mentions. I already brought up the ORI, Outdoor Recreation Initiative. We're also seeking funding to try and help the state park with catching up on some aging infrastructure. There's a lot of broken down asphalt, some jetting need repair and other things. We're trying to help with that. So we'll be submitting those 2 funding requests for the plans and infrastructure here. We submitted LOIs already, letters of interest, and the full application will be due by September 1st. We're working with Vineyard City right now, Brian Baudry and the Recreation Department, to put in some trail amenities. These are bike racks, benches, and bike repair stations along the Lakeshore Trail. We received a grant for that already this spring, and we're working on permitting currently to make that happen in conjunction with Forestry Forest Lands. Our Eagle Counter project that I've hit on many times, just wanted to update you that 33 sites are installed. There's a couple of last remaining access points that we're still wrapping up some permitting work on before we have that whole project done. But we're excited to have our economic impact analysis. One important thing that came out of that was our multiplier for vehicles. One of the questions that was asked was, when you come to the lake, how many people typically come with you? So that we can take the data of those 33 sites, I think 21, if I remember correctly, are vehicle counters. And we can then take that and extrapolate an estimate on how many visitors we're actually getting to the lake. So really excited for that data. Recently, we began some effort with the search and rescue community at the lake as well, trying to improve efforts around water safety. So you'll be hearing more from me in the near future on that. We're working with Utah County Search and Rescue, Utah Division of Law Enforcement under DNR, Saratoga Springs Fire Department, who else? Division of Outdoor Recreation, Boating Safety Coordinator, and a few others, to make sure we're learning where the pain points specifically around water safety that we can help support and address to maintain a high level of safety at the lake if we can for recreators. That's everything I got for today, unless there's any questions from the board.
Thank you, Deputy Director. All right, moving through our other
illustrious staff members with their reports. We'll now hear from our events communications manager. O'Day, Kelly Cannon O'Day, yes.
You know, you spelled it right when there's two punctuation marks. So nice to meet you all in person. I was hired in March, but I was unfortunately unable to attend the March meeting and the May meeting, so it's nice to meet you all. Just quickly go over, these are the events that we have been doing all summer. We had our ULA Festival. It was a huge success. Just a reminder, we partnered with the Provo Farmers Market this year, and we anticipated that we would get about 5,000 people. We ended up actually with more of like 6,000 people. And so all of the hiccups involved having 1,000 more people than we anticipated, which is a good problem to have. The Utah Lake State Park people and the Provo Farmers Market were absolutely thrilled. They wanted it again. They were very excited. Basically, we all kind of came to the conclusion if we can solve the parking problem, there's no reason that we can't grow by several thousand people each year. Provo Farmers Market has high demand for people wanting to come to this. A lot of people said they want to come to this. So if we can figure out parking, will be great. We've been tabling at various city festivals and talking to several hundred people each time. Freedom Festival is probably the next one. We probably talked to over 1,000 people. At different ones, we're averaging in between 500 to 800 people that we're talking to. Everyone seems to be extremely positive, happy to talk to us. I've done tabling for other organizations, and this one is like crazy positive. We're also tabling with other people's organizations and events. That one's a little bit more hit and miss when it comes to participation, but again, very, very, very positive. Upcoming events, our Governor Spencer Cox is actually coming on Monday. He requested a boat tour. And so we will be taking him and his staff out on our boat. And if you don't know, our boat's name is the June's Revenge. And we're going to be showing him the different projects we're doing, the different plans we have, and where we could use more support. We are very excited about that. Also, the Lieutenant Governor, Deidre Henderson, also reached out saying that she wants to be more involved in our events and wants to see what we're doing. So that's fantastic. We're doing our biannual field trip days. They will be in September, 4 days in September. We're at Saratoga Springs Marina this in the fall. I've emailed teachers. I've already had a huge response of teachers wanting us to do this. Just another side note on this, we are also developing with Addie Valdez as the lead, a kind of school assembly program that we can take to schools because we're not able to accommodate literal hundreds of teachers who request these field trips. So we're developing that program. Our symposium is coming up. Our date is to be determined. We've been going back and forth with UVU trying to secure dates. We thought we had our dates, turns out we didn't have our dates. So we're just kind of, by the end of this week, that's our goal, is to have dates secured so we can start really moving forward with that. The Division of Outdoor Recreation, they are holding their summit in Durham. So they reached out to us wondering if there was anything that we would like to partner with. And my response was, we will do as much as you will let us. And so we are actually going to be hosting our opening dinner at the Utah Lake State Park. I've been assured that by then the midge flies will be gone. So that's all I hear about. And so we will have an opportunity for sponsoring that dinner. We will have an opportunity to talk about Utah Lake and all the recreational opportunities we do. I will also be presenting at that summit to talk about how Utah Lake Authority is kind of leading the way when it comes to interdepartment collaboration work. All right, updates. So HAPS communication, harmful algal blooms, obviously you know a lot about it and our approach to it. So we reached out to all of our media contacts. We were able to get a lot of news out there, kind of frame our own communication, work with it. I know someone talked about emphasizing the things that people can do. A lot of our new flyers that I created focus on that kind of personal responsibilities. We have been Zoom, we have been language tabling, we have a bunch of social media websites. We're going to continue to roll that out. Next year, we want to do a kind of mini season, kind of like it's past season. Here's what it means. Here's what we do. Kind of shifts away from the soapbox point of view to a language that is more about. We all know what this is. Let's like just be responsible. And then I won't go cover the economics again, but we've got his taken care. News coverage, we have been able to work with my media contacts
we've been able to get, over, if you don't count the HAPS coverage, which I haven't counted yet, we have 25 news stories so far. Most were about either the Utah Lake is My Lake campaign or the economic study. Those are the most positive ones. About the HAPS bar on this Lumberg, we actually had a story come out today from KSL TV. One of them reached out to me about HAPS that I mentioned to the barge, and they gave them contact information. That story came out today. They're actually on the barge seeing it. It's fantastic. It's on KSL TV. Let me know if you want the link. I have it available. So we've had a lot of really, really positive media coverage. And then last thing, staffing update. We have had a lot of people reach out to us wanting more volunteer opportunities. And we offer a limited amount, but people are just like, we want more. So Heather McEwen, who is our programs coordinator, she's stepped up and she's going to look into and has looked into ways of expanding volunteer opportunities for everyone, coordinating that. And so that's, I just want to know what you guys know that Heather is stepping into that role a little bit more so we can offer more volunteer opportunities for everybody. Any questions? I know I just did through those.
Great. In regards to the volunteering, are we connected at all with Just Serve? That's kind of like a community, you know, or across the board platform people can go on.
Yes, we do use Just Serve, but we, it's, in my opinion, kind of a more passive thing where you post something and hope people come. What we want to be is more proactive about when we have opportunities and letting people know and then directing them to Just Serve. So I don't like the approach of just putting it on Just Serve and hoping people come.
Have a little more organized.
I want it to be more organized, more proactive, and then Just Serve is the platform that we use to get people because they just have the infrastructure for it already.
Great. Thank you very much, Kelly. All right, now we will have our development director, Shelby Kozak, provide a quick update on funding.
Yes, very nice.
So just remind me for small time development, it's not a lake, but it is development of funds.
So I strive to be the favorite presenter because I get to talk about all the money. Just quick thing on grants I wanted to highlight was that we haven't already highlighted from the ad. Will be having my editor that was highlighted this was that we are working with Smith Entertainment Group with 2 different sources of funding to hopefully get we're hoping to upwards of $1 million as of right now. We would say for 500,000, and they want us to apply to a second round of funding, which we believe we have a for sure confirmation, but will be about the same amount. So thank you to Commissioner Beltram for that to last company board meeting. But we've gotten some, nothing for sure yet, but we've got some really good responses from them. Hoping to do a tour with them at Utah Lake State Park where the historic hockey rink was. But many other people seem really, really interested in working with us. Additionally, we are being considered for, well, Josh Schultz, who was the previous Utah Lake State Park manager, is being considered for the Public Service Board, Lieutenant Governor's Public Service Board, which is part of Utah State Service in November. So we are excited to see if we'll be able to recognize him. And then finally, speaking about have barges where they can be used. We are working with hopefully several corporate potential sponsors for them to be able to hopefully kind of like have their own, like sponsor their own barge. Just for your all references, one barge is about $35,000 for the summer to be able to run it. It's you use student crews and 2 people manning it. And to make a new barge is about $260K. So nothing is like for sure yet, but we've been getting some really great interest in how local corporate relations are wanting to be able to help, which makes sense. Everyone wants to be, you know, the superhero that solves hacks. So next slide. In addition to grants and fundraising, we want to become as sustainable as possible, not relying on government dollars, and that's the idea behind independent revenue sources. Here are just a couple of initiatives that we are working on. I do want to highlight the Dominguez Escalante race. Next year is the 250th anniversary of them going up the Spanish Fork River and finding Utah Lake. So we'll be working with several of the cities, hopefully, to be able to put together a nice 5K, 10K some sort of race. And I think that from our market research, it could be a really nice way to do fundraising. And also, is not inspired by the great like license plates. We are working with DMV to be able to put together a proposal for a Utah Lake license plate. Here are examples from Oregon. I'm not saying this is what it's going to look like, but we are also in kind of like research phase of what I think people would enjoy and like, so that maybe it's a bit finding that way as well. Next slide. And then finally, I just want to revisit our corporate relations. So this was a visit that we had last week with Bivington and National Resource Group, their parent company. We had their sustainability team that was in from Texas. They came, they did a volunteer project at the ULA State Park, and then they were able to actually go out with Dr. Sherwood on his half boat. And that we had incredibly great responses. Wow, us at ULA was like, oh, this is all very technical and boring. All their sustainability team was very excited and engaged with all of his technicalities and talking. So we're seeing really good promise about what a partnership between some of these like more technical firms that are around kind of in like the Silicon Slopes area about how they want to be able to participate. And that's like that, again, if you remember last time that we talked about wanting to be able to engage these private corporate companies that are around Utah County there surrounding the lake. So the things that we're just really wanting them at this stage to be able to come to like to be able to see it, to see the cool things that were being done, and as we show them cool things, all those things have a price tag. And so we get really positive responses. I think that's my last slide. One more thing. I will not be here next board meeting. I believe in about a month. I will be taking that leave. So I think about half of you have met my little baby, and we're going to have one more little baby. So I will be sure to put a nice little photo at the next coming board meeting after she is here. So thank you to the map that was passed 2 weeks ago, I think. I will be taking advantage of that, and I'm very grateful. So thank you very much, and see you baby photos next time.
All right, any questions for Shelby? So I just have one comment. I'm okay, Shelby, if you want to change it to something like funding evolution.
Oh, yeah.
Advancement, if you don't,
I think people get inspired every time. Sometimes I'll be like, I need to do corporate relations, and people are like, oh, okay. But sometimes I'll see development and they'll either get real excited or they get real concerned. That's above my pay grade. I'm not talking about construction. It's not. In the nonprofit world, it's a bit more clear because that's what this job is. If I think in government, it's just not the language that we use. So. But that makes a lot of sense.
I really want you to put it forward to my anything else? All right, thank you so much. All right, and our final report will be from our program manager over conservation and restoration efforts. Addie,
She's online.
she's online. So welcome, Addie. You are up.
All right, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect, great. Well, I'm dealing with a little bit of echoing, so I'm going to do my very best to make this clear as possible. First thing I want to shout out is my intern technician, Marley Phelan. She's in the room right there. She's made a lot of our fun summer activities possible and has made our progress just absolutely phenomenal compared to the previous summer. So huge shout out to her. I would love for you guys to all engage with her if you can. And I'm so sorry I cannot be there to see all your wonderful faces. Again, I will be in the September meeting, so I will see you there. First thing I want to hit on just our restoration and ecology work. Again, there's been so much going on in the past few months, so I'll just give you the highlight reel. We were awarded our WRI application for this year, about $185,000, so that is a big win yet again. I'll talk about our WRI restoration tour that we held last month.
That we have geared toward vegetation restoration.
We have $250,000 worth of contracts so far, which is amazing. We're about to do our drone flights, surveys, and mapping within our next 2 weeks of August. So pray for me because it's going to be a little bit crazy working with Aggie Air, USC's botany team, and Forestry Fire St. Lands, and so many other partners who would make it possible. It's a little insane. So yeah. pray for us. And we'll also be really soon buying equipment, plants, so many more things to get this money spent by the end of 2026. And I'm really happy with how the progress is going so far. This summer we had a ton of vegetation installs. We did 40,000 plants total, which is a lot compared to last year, which we only did 10,000. So we were able to do many volunteer events with great engagement, and we were awarded 9,000 plants this year, which we could have gotten more, but I didn't think I needed any more, which is good. 9,000 is about perfect for us right now. All right, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, quick moment, Addie, there's a little bit of spottiness in the connection with you. So we're missing a little bit of your voice board. I know we have summaries in front of us. Everyone okay? I'm going to reiterate anything. Okay, please proceed. Thank you.
Okay, so sorry about that. I can slow down if we need to.
Thank you.
Yes. So I just wanted to share a couple photos here. These are just some great examples of our plant survival. If you guys can get out on Utah Lake, I feel like there's a ton of areas that you can just see this happening. Quick though, so we'll go through our next. When it comes to our education and community building, that cut out.
We're not catching everything here. If you want to back up.
So sorry. Our new program that we'll be building is going to hopefully involve capsule boxes. So this is going to entail kids, communities, companies building capsule boxes, which are relatively easy to build. But then also we will be hanging them up, and then those same classes associated with those teachers can still go back and do community science on these. So basically do year-to-year monitoring about how their bird is doing, if they have a nesting pair, whatever else. Continue educating the communities in our school programs over the years. And then again, we are really just working on our solid science messaging and helping others communicate effectively about the science around Utah Lake, because that is a big issue. So we're really excited about that. And then we did have our large WRI tour with our central region managers, which is a great success. We had so many compliments, and a lot of people really enjoyed getting to see the progress for WRI, which has been going on for 15 years now. So people are actually getting to see it, and it overall went really well. And I could not be happier with how our progress has been moving. So I will quit subjecting you guys to the pain of this cutting out now, and let me take any questions, and then I will let you all off the hook.
All right. Thank you so much, Patty. This is fantastic. Not seeing any comments or questions from the board. So thank you very much. All right, and that concludes item number 6 on our agenda, our staff and committee reports. Thank you for all your good work. We have an incredible team. We're very grateful for keeping us informed. So moving forward on the agenda, we do not have a need to go into closed session, so we will move on to item number 8, our public hearing regarding the fiscal year 2026 budget amendments.
Remind me, Chair, do you need to move into the public hearing first before we discuss?
So I would entertain a motion. I don't know if the order sometimes is to present and then open the public hearing, but
Whichever way you like. I'm prepared to speak. Just one.
okay, we can go ahead and if you're comfortable.
Okay. If I give direction, and then we'll move to public hearing for your comments.
Seconded by Councilmember Card.
Opportunity for public comment.
Fantastic.
Heather, if you could pull up on the screen just so the board can see what I'm referencing. Let's start with the general fund spreadsheet.
Yes, I just had it.
As she's pulling it up, so we do have amendments to all three documents that fit within our budget, which are our general fund spreadsheet, our capital projects fund, and then go with the general fund spreadsheet. Yeah, it is. And then the long range capital plans associated with it. You should hopefully be able to zoom in a bit, so that's on display. Perfect. So for revenues that you can see there, just a few minor changes.
Sorry, I need a screen share.
My apologies for starting too early. Okay, lovely. Thank you. Just an increase in interest expected. We did have some additional grant revenues that are either secured or targeted or hoping to secure in the following months. And then same thing with contracts dollars. There was some additional funding we were able to secure, and a slightly larger transfer from general fund is what's estimated at the moment. If you'll scroll down a bit to show the expenses, Heather. Just some minor changes in expenses. Most of these were trying to increase some of our standard operating accounts from some of the overages that we had previously. We also were able to adjust our consulting services budget downward. The water impact development study has a lower budget than we originally expected, so we were able to redistribute that across to a variety of our accounts. But no significant change there, unless there's any question on that. I believe. Yeah, thank you. There was also a slightly larger contribution to capital projects fund forecasted with this too, to try and help support some of the infrastructure projects we're pursuing. So that's the general fund. If you could show the capital projects, Heather. Switch back to the OneDrive again.
Oh, there it is.
And then top right corner is an X in the black. There you go. And then capital projects fund. Beautiful. Some changes here in revenue. Same thing. You'll see increase transfer to general fund. So changes in contracts from this. That's just redirecting some contracts revenue fit into the general fund instead of capital projects. A slight increase in interest expected, and then some additional grant funding that we're hoping to secure. Because we meet so infrequently, we're trying to plan out for the future. So as a result, as I mentioned in the email, we will probably have a quarterly amendment potentially happening as reality sets in. As Luke mentioned, if I have not included in the budget the federal appropriations because it's still a little early to tell, but that'd be one example of an amendment we need to make at that time. But because we only meet every couple of months, we wanted to make a few changes. Access enhancements also increased due to some of those changes in revenue coming in. As far as the long range capital plan, if you'll close out of this, Heather, and go to that third PDF. This is not a binding document, but this, unfortunately doesn't show it in red on here. My apologies. If you zoom out just a little bit further. Thanks, Heather. A little bit more to show the full time on the left. Thank you. This is reflecting some of those changes in grants. So the only changes on this document were the last three items. Mitigation for Utah Lake projects, just our partnership in supporting some of the mitigation work that's happening on the lake, the algae barge as well, contributing towards that with Kevin Shurtleff, and then the PCB study in partnership with TWQ, just wrapping up that expense here. We'll be paying that hopefully this week. So those are just included into the long range capital plan. So those are kind of a high level on the amendments, the changes that happened to those three documents. If the board had any questions, I'm happy to answer those before we go for public comment.
All right, seeing that, we will now invite the public to comment. Both in person here, staff, you can check if there's anyone raising their hand online. All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion. I'll second it.
Sorry, we have a motion by Brad.
Chris Garn, and then seconded by John Fulmer.
Okay. Okay, so make that note for the minutes. All right, all in favor to close the public hearing? Okay, any further discussion by the board on the amendments? All right, then we'll move on to our action items. First one is to approve the aforementioned
amended budget.
So moved to accept the amended budget as presented.
Any further discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Under eyes online. Okay, and then any opposed? All right. The budget carries. Thank you so very much. Then we also have under agenda item number 9, we have a resolution to form a youth council. This is something that will be presented by Kelly Kennedy again.
Hello, so a lot of you who are part of cities might be familiar with youth councils. What it is it's a civic leadership program where you get high school students to get more involved in their communities and their city governments. And so I was presented with all the benefits of youth council when I was at the what is it?
Utah Recreation Parks Association Conference.
Thank you. And so I reached out to the Utah Youth Council organization. It is a USU extension, and asked them if we could do one for the Utah Lake Authority, specifically for students who are interested in not only civics and leadership, but also in ecology and recreation. And they were very, very jazzed about the idea. They thought it was a great opportunity. Before we can form any youth council, they advise that our whatever body is over our entity has to kind of get the thumbs up, and that is through a formal resolution. And so I'm here to answer any questions we have about it. This is kind of step 1, and then we will move on from there.
I have a question. Will you be taking applications from current youth councils that are run by cities, or will it just be open in general? Is it more executive or is it broad?
So it will be more broad. One benefit to Utah Lake being so big is we will pretty much open it up to all schools in Utah County. And so it is for students who may not be involved in city youth councils, but want to be involved in others. I don't know about kids who are currently on youth councils. If I feel like that would be eating up too much of their time.
So clarifying question on that. You're going to open it to all Utah County or municipalities who are represented by the board?
So ideally what I would like it to be is we would start off by offering it to the cities who basically abut the lake. And so, you know, Provo, maybe not Provo. I'm still learning all the cities.
All of them.
Saratoga, Lehigh, American Fork, Linden, Vineyard, Orem, Provo, Springville, and Spanish Fork all have abutment to the lake.
And then if we don't have enough from there, because there is, they told us there's kind of like a minimum number that you kind of want to get if there's not that much first then we'll open up to the other. How many youth members are you going to have? Ideally we would like 12. That kind of is the number to get because then it encourages the students to work together on projects. Because if you have any less than that, then kids are kind of like left on their own, like they have to do a service project that is kind of by themselves, and that can be challenging for a student that's never done it before. So it's nice to have kind of tag team it. There are youth councils all over the state that range in groups. Graders has like over 100 students. I don't want to do that unless there's really an interest for it. I'm aiming to start off with 12. Whenever I do a project, I like to start small and then build up.
And then you're doing like high school level,
9th grade through 12.
Shelley, do you already have a charter or a scope for the council? What would be their relationship to ULA? Is it an advisory? Is it a recommendation? Is it service projects? What would their actual function be? And if we already outlined and framed that, or is this more of a mission to explore the opportunity as a whole?
So the USU extension actually has like a fill in the blank charter that they recommend that
could use. And then you can tailor it to be whatever you want, because this would be a kind of a unique council. We can tailor it to be whatever I want. The things I would want to focus on would be service within your own community. The idea being that, you know, we have students from Saratoga, we have students from Orem, we have students from Provo, and that they would do service projects related to the lake in their own cities. So it's leadership, it's service projects, and then also everything kind of have either a recreational or an ecological framework. And so when it comes to like the purpose of it, it is to give kids those leadership opportunities within those realms. Another benefit to youth councils is for every year you're on the youth council, you get a certain amount of money that gets put into a scholarship fund. And so it's not much, it's like $100 per student per year. But you know, they can, if they do it for 4 years, they can get $400 cover folks for 2 semesters.
So
Or one, depending. I got my degree in English, so that would cover 2 semesters for me.
I've seen something done where the reason why I asked you if it was that true executive, like a layering on of other city councils, is because when kids want to get involved, they have all these markers that they want to do for school or applications. And so it takes a lot of time to run a youth council program. But if you are having them apply from a youth council organization that they're already doing, then they have that background and they can go participate there, kind of like we are, where we come from our own city and then are our own organization, and then we come here and we apply that expertise and we kind of narrow in on the ULA. I feel like that might be a really good opportunity as you're looking at applications where they're already involved in the youth council, but they really want to do something with Utah Lake. And so they bring that expertise and they come in and they can focus on that. But maybe you can do more quarterly meetings instead of monthly meetings, or things that are where they're bringing their own students and they have their own social media that they can team on, so that you don't have to build such a big program right away.
No, I'm totally open to that idea. This is something that I'm kind of building as we go, because it's as far as I'm aware, it's never been done before to have a per city type of youth council, and so I am totally open to that idea.
So it's not an action item, but I second that. It's a great idea to try and pull from existing youth councils. It's just an added layer of responsibility they could take.
Absolutely. I think I'd be willing to explore that idea. I would just be interested in, I don't want to overcommit students' times. They are already so booked up.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, so my kids are really close together and they were all in high school, pretty close, junior high, same time. So you are exactly spot on when you need to worry about their commitment ability. And these kids that sign up for these types of things are your overachievers, your ones who have so many fingers and so many pots and doing so many great things. So I appreciate your concern, and I would like you to maybe really keep that in mind in order for them to be successful and for your youth council to be successful. So I appreciate the caution there. And to the other side, I also believe we on our Orem Youth Council have been very proactive in teaching our council about Orem and having tours and opportunities for them to see and learn about our city. So they would, pulling from those groups, then if they're doing similar things in other cities, you have that wealth of knowledge coming to your youth council. So I can see pros and cons with both of those approaches. And I would just, of course, have you be just very careful when you look at these kids, have them on their application state exactly how involved they are, so we can help them be successful in they're trying to be successful and build their resumes for college.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
Having just discussed the budget, are we incorporating this within what you're already doing? Is this a standalone budget? How would we proceed?
So I was advised, that was a question I had, is like how much money it would cost. And according to the USU extension, the main things the cost that you would cover are like
snacks at every meeting. It's pretty minimal. The scholarships is another commitment. And then, every year there is a council conference that's, like all the youth councils get together for like a single conference, just covering travel for that. And so we're only looking at, between $1,000 to $2,000. Okay. So that can be within our existing budget. We just set it aside internally for me. If it does expand past that, then it would be something that we would need to kind of be aware of. But like I said, like I want to start small and get success under my belt before we get into anything that I think would require a budget adjustment.
All right, sounds good. I would imagine like a little T-shirt so they feel official,
Or like
a polo or
name
something.
tags, like name tag. Yeah, the conference every year is in the spring of every year, and apparently that's what students really love because they meet other lifelong students.
Is it in Utah?
Yes. So it's like all the youth councils in the state of Utah, and it's usually around the. I think it's at different locations. I'm not positive about that, but I do know it's around also the legislative session because they would have like
We take ours to the day of the Capitol.
Yes.
In January.
Yes.
And that
So
was
it's around-
that costs about $75 registration fee per head and plus whatever you do going on.
If you pull from youth councils.
We're paying for it already. Sounds fantastic getting involved. Thank you so much. That's an extra lift. Going above and beyond and just getting them involved. It's fantastic. Just from our experience, just because kids are involved in a lot of things, we get attendance is like, we're happy if we have at least a minimum of half of the council to 2/3. It's really tricky to get the whole body 100% attendance at all of our things all the time. So we found 12 was where we started, but sometimes it would feel really thin because of, I don't know how the other cities have found attendance goes with your youth councils. Anyway, we found like sweet spot has been like 18 to 20, then it always feels like there's a good number of kids always there. But I don't know, that's just my experience.
No, I completely agree. That's the planner. I always plan on when you have RSVPs about half will show up. And so one of the things is the scholarship is contingent on a certain percentage. So you have to attend like 75% of the events.
So great. Okay, thank you for, yes. So really quickly, this is an action item. So thank you, Kelly. Any further questions about this? Okay. Yes, this is an action item to allow a youth council to be formed.
I'll make a motion to approve action item 9.2, resolution to form a youth council.
I'll second that. All right, we have a motion by Chris Thorne, seconded by Lene. Any further discussion or comment on the motion? All right, seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. Okay, then we are ready. We're through with the meeting on time. This is pretty fantastic. Just a really quick note. On the agenda, there's a little bit of a typo. Originally, the next ULA board meeting was going to be scheduled for September 10th, although we have a fantastic museum, 9/11 roving museum that's put together by Jenny Taylor. And thank you to our commissioners who are inviting us to attend that. I hope we are all encouraged to go to that. Hopefully you've all received the email. So that was in conflict.
You're not the mayor yet. Yes, all of you are more than welcome on Wednesday, the 10th at the Spanish Fork Fairgrounds at 8 a.m. We'll have a VIP breakfast and then you can walk through the museum for the first time. And then our first bus of school field trips will be at 9 a.m. So come between 8 and 9. We're really fortunate to host it this year. It goes to a new county every year. And it's Utah County this year, and it's very well done. You'll walk into a setup of Spanish Fork and Utah County the day before 9/11, and then you'll walk through the entire day of 9/11 through a immersive museum of videos and images. And then you finish with like a service and how united everybody was on September 12th. Is how you'll finish. So a really cool experience. We're lucky to have close to home this year.
Yes, it's really going to be special. So anyway, with that in mind, our actual next meeting will be September 18th. So just make a note of that. All right. Any further items to bring forward? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Curtis Blair, seconded by Commissioner Beltran. Aye. All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you.
See you, Mark. Mayor Johnson. See ya.